and welcome to a very special episode of Pod People.
Greetings.
Matisse is away this week, so I'm Ben, and we have our very special, regular, semi-regular guest.
How's it going?
Cleveland Mosier.
It's me.
How's it going, Cleve?
It's going pretty good, man. It's going pretty good.
Yeah, so we watched Hausu.
We did.
1977. It was directed by
Nobuhiko Obayashi.
Nobuhiko. Okay.
Hiko, yeah.
Okay,
There's an O at the
Hiko.
end, yeah. Nobuhiko Obayashi.
Okay.
Okay. I think. I'm not going to.
So, yeah, Nobuhiko Obayashi. Yeah. I don't know any other movies he's done besides this. This was like a Toho film. Which Toho, if you don't know, is a big Japanese film company. They were huge in the 60s and 70s.
It's also a type of film where when you start putting it on, you go, Toho! Man, that's a movie. Tell you what.
Yeah, well, they were looking for a version of Jaws with this one.
Apparently, that's what the words on the internet said, but I don't see it. I'll tell you what.
Well, this certainly was not Jaws.
Nope. No, sir.
But instead, it's
yes, please go on. Tell me what it is. What is this movie, Ben?
Far more than that.
What did you subjugate me to?
It is Jaws plus Jaws.
Yep.
And it has demon cats and angry pianos.
Now, if y'all are hearing a bit of resentment in my voice, you heard correctly. Now, if you're wondering why, it's because the three of us were having a conversation, Teese, Ben, and myself, about whether we were going to see this, what movie that Ben and I were going to watch while Teese was gone. And Ben did you suggest
I absolutely
Ben
suggested this movie because I love this movie.
And Teese said, yeah, I think I can be gone for that one. And I was wondering why. And now I know.
It's funny because I sold you on this movie because I was like, this movie would be for you. And in a lot of ways,
it is.
I think it is
you're right
absolutely for you.
I think so.
Like, there are so many things to love about this movie. So, just to sum up the plot really quick.
But man, the reason I was not... Or the reason it's faux resentment, but still. But I'm this way because I had no expectations. I knew nothing about this film going into it, and boy howdy, like did that put me through the ringer. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that was
it sure is
borderline,
something.
It's a borderline prank to do that to somebody. Like, good God.
Well, the movie, it has a very, I guess I wouldn't say loose plot. I would say simple.
Yeah, the plot's pretty straightforward.
You know, it's the schoolgirl named Gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, footnote on that.
6 of her friends, let's see, her friends, fantasy, kung fu.
Yep. Mac,
the fat one, of course, as in McDonald's, professor, Sweet. And Melody, yes, the musician.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the girls are just named after their archetypes in a Neil Gaiman-esque fashion. I suppose. Like it's.
I love how Sweet just likes to clean all the time.
I'm just.
It's very sweet of her.
I'm just gonna second guess everything I say in this podcast. I don't even know where to begin.
So Gorgeous and her 6 friends, they go to Gorgeous's aunt's country home out in the middle of nowhere. And the home, I guess, tries to eat the girls.
I guess. Yep.
So the thing about this movie is it is absolutely an experience more than anything else.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten that vibe from us already, it's a doozy.
It sure is something. I feel like this movie is made in its editing. Because it is frenetic, to say the least. They throw every type of stylistic idea imaginable at you.
At a machine gun rate.
Yeah.
They take a whole, like, AK-47 barrel drum clip of bat shit, and they just fire at you non-stop. This movie is ceaseless in its insanity
It's
from the gate.
It's borderline experimental at times.
I mean, I would say it absolutely is just straight up experimental. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just
At least to your average.
I hesitate calling it experimental just because the term experimental holds a stigma.
It's
I feel
not.
like
It's not industrial.
there's a sense of fun to it more than anything, and that's what keeps it from being too academic or anything else like a lot of experimental quote unquote films are.
Yeah, I think it definitely doesn't hit many of the hallmarks that experimental films tend to partake in, but I think it would still be you could still categorize this as an experimental film. Like,
I suppose. I mean,
maybe I'm wrong, but
it was a mainstream release. It's funny because when it was first released, the critics hated this movie.
Yeah.
But it was a
Not
hit
surprised by
with the
that.
audiences.
Mm-hmm.
It was an absolute hit with the audiences. But yeah, they throw every stylistic idea at the book. The movie starts off with, snapshots, and every time the camera clicks, it like blacks out and gets like a tinted colored image of what they were taking.
yeah, but
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and you ever walk out of the frame? Like, yeah, before we get into like the minutia, like I feel like there's still more we could probably say just about the feel of this movie. Like I mean, I don't want to lead, but
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of that plays into the feel of the movie. Like a lot of the details are what make this movie so unique.
no, you're right.
Even like you get wild shifts between playful experimentation. Like, you get frames within frames of different footage. You get these like almost sitcom-y like dissolves.
There's the stop motion stuff. There's like the low budget settings with these like elaborate matte paintings.
But more
wacky
than
film.
anything, I feel like a lot of this plays into what you were saying, the feeling of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think this movie, in a way, really proves that film as a medium doesn't necessarily have to be about story necessarily, but it can also be about emotion and feeling. Mm-hmm. Because this movie is really fun, but the story is very simple. But I think a lot of it works in spite of that because of the style of it. I think a lot of the creepiest elements of this movie work due to the style.
No, I think you're asking a good question there. Does this film work?
I absolutely think it does.
And I think so too. Like I do. I have to think about it. I have to pause and ask myself before I answer, but I will say yes.
It has a childlike playfulness to it, which can definitely throw you off if you don't expect it.
Yeah, it's fairly off-putting. And I think it's utilized as such. Like they're going for that. Like the majority of the time. Like that I think is the weirdest thing about it. Like this film does set out in what it's trying to achieve. It's just in the weirdest way possible.
Well,
in a Rube Goldberg like
it's
fashion.
definitely a comedy too.
Yeah.
Like it plays up its humor at times.
Yeah, and they're laughing with you. Like,
it
is intentional in a way I've never seen in cinema before, and I don't know if I will again either.
Yeah, no, this is one of the most
It's a one of a kind.
out there horror movies I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it multiple times at this point because I'm just entranced by it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's so much fun too to watch with people, especially if they have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely feel like entranced by it, or enchanted by this movie the same way that I would be enchanted by a black hole. Like just trying to understand it, just trying to get a sense of this film in a similar way that the Room had me asking those questions. But I think that the production was very different for this movie.
Well, yeah, because this movie's, where The Room is so bad it's good. This movie is bad but also good.
Yeah, you can't say it's so good it's bad, because it's great.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's a weird one.
so good it's bad that it's good again.
Yeah. Yeah, it does that, doesn't it? It kind of Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, I want to talk specifically for a second about one of my favorite sequences in the movie.
Certainly, and I'll let you this time.
Well, this is mostly because I feel like it shows how effective the horror can be just by the style. And that's when they do the whole slowed frame rate section of the movie where it almost hurts to watch.
Yeah, I thought there was something wrong with the stream.
Yeah, no, it's just like that. And I actually really like that because it throws viewers off immediately.
Well,
you know, and like it makes you uncomfortable to watch it.
It's interesting you went for that sequence because that's probably, from my perspective, really the only one I couldn't justify. Like I felt that the kind of like kiddie matte paintings where they're on the school bus and the things that break the fourth wall immediately, that feel like something that would be put on by like a local dance production or something. Well, I mean, I grew up backstage doing local dance productions, and like I've seen some pretty cool matte paintings, you know, actually. So I'm definitely not going to riff on that. But it does have that same kind of feel as like almost like a high school like musical like kids production or something. Yeah. And they're high school kids, like it's intentional in those sequences, but the dropped frame rate during the phone moment is to me it felt almost unnecessary. Like I didn't. It made me feel uncomfortable, but just because it was frustrating in the same way that like someone putting their hand in my face while I'm trying to watch the movie would be frustrating. I'm not frustrated for the characters. It takes me out of the film.
See, I don't know if I agree. I feel like that whole sequence gives me such a sense of wrongness just because we're so situated with, you know, the concept of how movies are supposed to be, that at kind of a base level, an instinctual level, it feels not right.
I mean, yeah, it gave me a sense of wrongness, but I felt like the wrongness was over the choice as opposed to wrongness for the characters or feeling like I've been wronged by the event. It was purely a wrongness of it was a wrongness sort of brought out of just the editing. It was a choice, which to me just sort of broke the fourth wall, but not necessarily in a good way.
Okay, well, I really I can understand that.
Only in that sequence, like
yeah. For me, it worked because it was obviously intentional, and they were trying to evoke that feeling by doing it.
Yeah,
and it worked for me because you know they hard cut like from normalcy to that and back to normalcy, and when they cut back and forth from that, it is effective because you notice when it goes back to it.
Well, yeah, and you're glad it does. You're breathing fresh air again.
Exactly. You know, it's almost a sigh of relief.
It is, but it's because the migraine's going to go away. Like not because I'm feeling legitimate tension for the characters.
But isn't it if it gives you, you know, a migraine even, like isn't that an effective film? Because it makes you feel something.
No, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think that can be a cop out. Like, often, like I think that I don't know if that's enough for me. And I want to be clear. Like, I'm just referring to this singular circumstance in this film. I'm not referring to the rest of the movie or anything else. But
no, but I
think this is a really interesting.
Yeah,
I do too. Bit. Like I think this is a cool point.
Because I feel like, you know, at its core, this movie is so effective because a lot of the stuff has that sense of wrongness. But like, I don't know. Like, you know?
When I walk into an outhouse, like, you know, I can get a migraine, but that doesn't make it art.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can get that, but does art have to have narrative to make it effective on an emotive level?
No, it doesn't need narrative. It really just comes into play, I guess, just what you find to be effective, and I didn't. But again,
that's fair. Yeah,
personal preference. Like, and I don't have any problems with you enjoying that sequence either, at all. And I think that, and I think that it's you are also within justification to find it to be effective. as an artist, like I'm pretty open-ended on that front. I think that if it gives you your jollies, then I have no problem with it. Of course, understood you on that front. For me, I often my head is so deep in the trenches while I'm focused on my own work that it can be hard for me to see the whole perspective. What is it about this movie that feels tinged, that's giving me that feeling? Because you brought up a good point about wanting to unpack that moment and our differing views on it. And I think to a certain degree I have a bit of resentment and jealousy towards this film because it pulls off a lot that it shouldn't pull off. And like it's almost frustrating as another artist to see someone like do make such lackadaisical choices and make them work. It's sort of equivalent to like Justin Roiland's comedy now.
It's so playful that it feels effortless.
Yes.
Effortless at times.
It does. It does. And to be fair, a great deal of effort clearly went into this film. Just like, a great deal of effort goes into a show like Rick and Morty or, any of like Justin Roiland's sort of style of comedy. But it has this feeling of not like a ballet dancer degree of effortlessness, but like a sleazy drunk kind of effortlessness where it's just throwing anything at you and it doesn't care. It's just going to try it all and see what works. And in this case, it does. So often.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind every time.
And the thing I love about it is even the stuff that doesn't work from a horror perspective usually works from a comedy perspective.
Yeah, you're either laughing or you're unnerved, but never are you bored in this film. That's a guarantee. Like you will not be bored watching this film. I would be surprised to hear otherwise from someone, from anyone, that. And I'm not one for absolutes or generalizations, but this film is absolutely not boring, no matter how you want to look at it.
No, absolutely. Well, it's so frenetic that it's pretty damn hard to be bored at any point.
This film makes Paprika look like a Nova special. And I love Paprika to bits. It's one of my top 3 favorite films, but it's a very frenetic, off the wall, kooky, and for many people, off-puttingly psychedelic. I love psychedelic films. I mean, why you were suggesting it to begin with, but even then I was not prepared for this movie.
It reminds me of, in a lot of ways, of like an Adult Swim late night special.
Oh, in every way.
Yeah.
Oh, this would fit right in. You could just air it in the 3 a.m. slot and no one would bat an eyelash.
Yeah. It's obvious that it was really influential to that kind of crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Because, just between the frenetic energy, the kind of cheerful, happy-go-lucky playfulness of the story mixed in with like the macabre almost.
Oh yeah, all that macabre.
Yeah,
it's got macabre for days.
More like macat.
Ooh, got him. But not macaque. There are no parrots in this movie.
No. There is a great cat though.
There is a killer cat.
And we get literally a killer cat. The cat's one of my favorite parts of this movie.
I agree fully with that.
It's a big fluffy white cat.
Oh, it's the best.
Who runs around and may or may not be Gorgeous's grandmother.
I didn't even get. Wait, what? That's me. Oh, I guess that is kind of the.
Yeah, she died.
I didn't even catch that.
And is living with the aunt, and she's like a spirit in the house.
Yeah, I guess that is. I guess Gorgeous's mom and or grandma, but who's to say? I mean, Gorgeous kind of becomes her mom. So.
Oh yeah, I guess it would be her mom. I was trying to figure out, trying to remember.
Yeah. It's probably the grandma too.
They have a whole subplot about.
Yeah, she's in front of like 4 mirrors, so it's kind of implying like it's it's Ouroboros-esque, like it's an unending cycle.
Yeah, and then they have her like her skin fall apart into fire.
It shatters like a broken mirror. Like her face shatters like a broken mirror, and then there's fire behind it.
I thought that was awesome.
I thought the idea was really awesome. I think they did it by painting on the film.
It's kind of cool.
It's pretty neat.
It's pretty cool.
I'm not hating on it. I don't want to hate on it because it's pretty fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
That's the word. It's not like it's very clearly, like handmade. It's made by it's the effects in this across the board in this movie are very childlike, even. Like they're very clearly effects. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need a film background of any capacity to recognize like the effects for what they are in this film at any time. The horror sequences with the violence, the comedy moments, any of it, it's all very artificial.
Yeah,
this film
absolutely.
is steeped in artificiality, and I really enjoy it for that.
Yeah, and there's times when like dismembered potty parts are like floating around, and it's obvious that they were. God damn it! They
got him.
It was obvious that they just painted the actress blue.
Yeah.
Except for these body parts. Which
you still get a little blue in there. Off the paint.
Yeah. I thought that's so much fun. That's so
it.
great. Yeah, because I think what it is all of the effects are unconventional, but that just makes it feel creative more than it feels haphazard.
It's fearless.
Yeah.
It's this movie had no fear at all. It didn't pull a single punch. It punched a lot. And again, credit to the movie for that, for sure. It's just of all those insanity bullets that this film fired at you, a number of them do land, but not all of them. Absolutely not all of them.
Nope.
There are many bullets that do not land.
I agree with you on in that respect.
The target. But again, it's cool. I love that this movie exists. I love that there's a film out there, Hausu, where they try literally everything they can in one go.
Yeah.
Like, this movie tries it all.
I respect it a lot for that, too.
And I'm happy for it.
Well, late in the movie, there's this...
fuck chronology.
Well, I just wanted to bring up this anecdote. Late in the movie, there's this guy who comes to pick up all the girls.
Yeah.
With
I think it's
his
my
car
favorite moment.
that just got fixed because earlier in the movie he had like fallen downstairs and got his ass stuck in a bucket
in a stop motion sequence.
Yeah,
which is
and
fantastic.
like rolled around a ton.
Worth the aside.
It's very good.
Yeah.
But he goes to go pick the girls back up from this house, and on the way there,
which was interesting because it was almost like he was willed to, because you saw the girls like talking about him like he was a Prince Valiant character, almost like he was going to be the hero to show up and save them, and then suddenly he just is. There's no real explanation to it. He was going to drive them to the other place, like where they were going to have their vacation before that was canceled and they had to go to the creepy house. So what was his motivation for going to pick them up? Was there one? Because I'm open to just having missed it.
Supernatural, yeah. I think it was, I
did
think
Neil Gaiman produce this? Like, God, there's some weird like Gaiman elements to this movie.
I think originally he was going to give them a ride, but the cat ran in front of his feet purposefully. The white cat.
Whoa, wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
And that's why he fell down the stairs. So it was all connected together.
Right.
Yeah, there was some intention to it. But when he's going to pick up the girls, he stops at this like shop with the sumo wrestler looking guy who sells watermelon.
Yeah,
and
I guess, and eats them. I think he just has watermelon. He's just a guy who has watermelon.
And just shows them to people.
Yep.
I mean, he sold one to Mac.
Yeah, but I think it was more like a fluke kind of thing.
Or did he give it to Mac because he respected her for being a
quote? Big quotes
big
around
Mac.
Respect. I don't know if it's.
Well, sumo to
footnote on respecting Japanese high school girls in a moment, but we'll come back to that.
Sumo to quote unquote fat girl. She's not even fat is the funniest part.
Oh, she's well, by American standards.
Yeah, by American standards, I guess you could say. But
well, I think you are right though. I think that like the casting was the perspective from casting was probably, oh yeah, well, she needs to be fat, but also we want all these girls to be attractive. So she has to be like the attractive character, but also the fat one. And so they found again, please acknowledge that I'm putting many quotes around these things that I'm saying, dearest audience.
This is a
please understand
visual medium.
that I am explaining that this is
Cleve
not my perspective.
is waggling his fingers this whole time.
Yeah, I'm just doing shadow
like
puppet bunnies.
Man.
Yeah,
the claw,
the claw of perspective. Oh, no, but yeah, I think that was. The
reason I brought him up though is he goes to the shop and he is foiled because he is literally turned into a pile of bananas. He literally goes bananas from this whole thing happening.
The Prince Valiant
and
school
I was
teacher's
like,
husband
I feel that I went bananas watching this movie.
Yeah, I think I had to check myself.
It was something I absolutely did not pick up the first time, but it.
That he became bananas?
Well, no, that he's going bananas, like the play on words.
Yeah.
Going crazy, going bananas, you know?
Because, I mean, within the context of the narrative, like a spell was cast on him, like when he tried to go save the girls.
They did it for the sense of the pun.
Oh, yeah.
They could have turned him into anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and this movie's so weird that anything could happen.
Yep, including bananamen.
Yeah, but that's why it's so funny, because it's so playful and, they just did it to make a big pun about how everyone's going crazy in this movie. I thought that was great. But I totally feel that watching this movie, it makes you feel like you're going bananas because over and over again, you're getting barraged by just
bad shit.
So much crazy shit.
Yeah, an outlandish degree of crazy shit. It just doesn't stop.
What did you think of the way they kind of picked the girls off one by one?
I thought it was Scooby Doo-esque, and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
This film is very Scooby Doo. Like it has that. It captures that same sort of campy, fun, childlike mentality. The girls are all infantilized. It's very, and the backdrops and sets all feel like something you would find in an after school special sort of program. It's very juvenile, this movie.
Childlike in its horror. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, not just in the horror, like just across, like the perspective. It's through the lens of a kid's kaleidoscope. Like like all the schoolgirls are very immature. They're very like youthful and campy, and I think that's sort of one of the running vibes of this film is sort of the fear of adulthood. Like all of the antagonists that are represented by the house are older women, like the aunt, the mother that the girl becomes. There's an overarching theme, I think, of adulthood in this movie and a fear of it. I think it's why one of the main reasons it kind of keyed in so well with like the college age, like Japanese youth when the film came out, is it's all about like coming into adulthood, and there's a sort of overarching fear of that. Like it's very like it's in your zeitgeist. At the time to use a term that I hate, but
well, and on top of that, there's this sort of, childlike horror that, adults just can't understand because it's not necessarily logical.
Oh yeah.
And you totally get that in this movie.
Yeah. Like in a lot of YA, you get that, like in young adult novels, you get that sense of, oh yeah, the adults don't understand. We're trying to explain this to people, but they don't get it.
And here, it's not even in an angsty way. It's just like, almost through a dreamlike sort of logic. You even get things like one of the girls is killed by a bunch of beds and futons falling on her, which is a really cool sequence because they shoot it through the floor.
Yeah, they had a glass floor. It is a very cool sequence. I absolutely agree with that front.
One thing I noticed was when they were flashing back to the mother story.
I like that sequence.
When it's all like done in a silent film presentation.
Well, yeah, silent film footage, but the girls are narrating over the top of it as if they can see the flashback, which I loved.
Yeah,
like that was hilarious to me.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, because like she's just explaining it to her friend. Like Gorgeous is just explaining her mother's back history to her friends on the bus, right? And it's being presented to us in these like 8mm style like World War II era like shots of, you know, the father going off to war and etc. But you have the girls Gorgeous is telling this story to, giving input on the visuals. Like they're saying, "Oh, he looks so handsome," and all this stuff. Like I love that. I love that breaking of the fourth wall. Like that was really funny to me.
Yeah.
But you were saying about it.
But yeah, I think that's another theme you can pull is like the idea of, you know, post-nuclear war kind of not being able to understand a lot of the ideas of loss and, you know...
Yeah, at least struggling to comprehend, if not trying to
having
understand.
A confusing world around you.
Yes,
you know?
I'm glad you brought that up. Like the post like nuclear Holocaust mentality. There were a lot of elements about this film that reminded me of Bhutto, which is a style of dance that sort of was born out of the atomic crisis. Like after the bombs fell, it was sort of utilized as a form of expression. And one of the things that makes Bhutto so horrifying as a form of dance is it's very often in mimicry of happy events. It's very often like people being sort of celebratory or trying to show like social settings, but they're very often wearing like kind of terrifying like white paint on their faces, and they're making these sort of like struggled expressions. It's very uncanny valley. It's very horrifying. And this film, to me, it replicated a lot of those same emotions and feelings. It felt like a lot of these jovial, happy moments felt again artificial and uncanny because of it. And I do think again it was intentional. Like it was awesome for it. Like it is very unnerving when the film has those sort of like those upbeat moments.
Yeah, it gave it a very uncanny valley feel. And it's the feeling of offness that we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Like just that kind of element that's beyond understing through direct, you know, representation.
Mm-hmm. And it's neat because we're not even necessarily referring to it in a visual sense, though it has that as well in spades. It also in a like in the dialogue and just in its general like form and presentation. You know, in the same way that visually, you know, something that is at the bottom of the uncanny valley would say, for instance, be a let's say a doll with real human teeth. You know, that's fucking horrible. Like that's terrifying. This film does the same thing. For instance, when a character is getting devoured, they might pause and say, "Oh, isn't that naughty?" or something like that, while they themselves are being destroyed. Like it's off-putting. Man, yeah, like does it just make you uncomfortable?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because tonally it feels like that too, because it wildly swings you between feeling like an authentic horror movie and just being downright silly.
Oh yeah, like it'll give you absolute whiplash.
Got a dancing skeleton.
Oh yeah, it's got all the spookies in it.
You got the aunt at one point is like eating ramen, and then she opens her mouth and there's just an eyeball there.
I loved that, and it's not like that actually was pretty well done.
It was really well done.
That sequence, like when we pulled it up again, like before the podcast, and like watched that sequence again, like that, it's a really real looking eye. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a sheep's eye or something like that.
It could
like,
very well be.
Like it looked pretty genuine.
Well, yeah, they had some genuine moments of horror. Like
like I said, some of those bullets land. Like
when one of the girls is in the spring and her hair comes up over her shoulder, and when she turns to look at it, it like pulls back.
Yeah, it's not like a stop motion style. Like Yeah, you know what it reminded me of is like that sequence in in the Babadook when it's on the ceiling.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was very similar, like that kind of stop motion, like dark object kind of crawling, which I'm all about. I've just been animating that stuff all week myself, so I'm a fan of that. For to be
Yeah,
sure.
and then it bounces to just the silly, whether it's the cat or my personal favorite set piece, the piano,
Yeah.
which is used incredibly. Melody finds this piano in the house and she plays the main theme of the movie on it. Eventually, the piano ends up biting off her fingers.
Yeah.
And she looks down at them and just starts laughing and
Yeah, she has this look
smiling.
of like almost like orgasmic like pleasure, like from getting her fingers eaten off.
Yeah.
Like,
And then she puts her hand in and her hand gets eaten and then she just gets devoured
Yeah.
by this piano.
yeah, and I think you said it yourself like during that sequence, but there's a really cool shot like where she's like inside of the piano and you see like the piano wire like in her fingers like caught up. It's pretty cool. Like there's some neat bits. I mean, it's also intercut with those horrible like blue screen like sequences of her limbs flying around, which are
I find them fun.
outlandishly fake. Oh, that also in that same sequence, they just for every shot they paint cartoon blue and red like explosion effects like around the whole frame. Like, and they
I
just
love
painted it
that
right onto the
stuff
celluloid too.
honestly.
Like, and it's pretty goofy. It's
Yeah.
pretty goofy. Like, and it makes you so. It puts you so on the fence. Like, I was watching that sequence and just I had to stop and ask myself, what do I feel and what am I supposed to be feeling? Like, and I still don't know what the answer is. And I would love to pick like the director's brain on that and know what the intent is there and if there is one, which I'm sure is probably the actual answer. But man, is it just a conundrum?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to try to analyze this. Well, in a way, it's easy to try to analyze this movie because there's so many different things you can take from it.
Yeah.
But, in another way, you can look at it simply as them just trying to make an entertaining movie, and they're being really playful with the, style of it. And I'll tell you what, you show this to someone who has no idea what's coming,
AKA me, yeah.
and they will have a good time watching it, at least. They might be confused.
Good. They'll have a time. They'll have a hell of a time.
I think they'll have a good time in the same way they would have a good time watching like a late night Adult Swim special.
Yeah,
know?
especially like some of the creepier Adult Swim ones. Like the nasal commercial one.
Yeah,
where it just keeps
it almost
going.
feels like
Unedited footage of a bear. I think
or like Tim and Eric's bedtime stories.
Ooh,
even
yeah.
like
Bless. Like, yeah, it's pretty spooky. Like it if you don't know what's coming, like that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember. I'm trying to look at how I was feeling in the moment, like when the film started, and there was just a lot of me just screaming, "What? What? 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 Non-stop. Just what is going on? What? I've never just said what so much during a film, and like I grew up watching surreal, weird movies. Like that's a huge part of my background. I'm generally, I think, I'm one to shrug that kind of thing off, but good God, man, it just this film just makes so many off the wall choices.
I mean, you're the one that's been sharing all the absurdist memes and stuff.
I know. Surreal memes are my favorite. Like I love it. Like how to not get swamped by the man is some fine art. Like as far as I'm concerned. But damn, man. Like again, I'm not saying it as a complaint. Like if anything, I think I'm saying these things as a positive. I don't know yet. It's going to be a long time before I decide.
That's the thing. I was the same way the first time I saw this movie. Honestly, I don't even think I was a huge fan of it the first time I watched it because I liked the energy and I liked how batshit it was. but as I watch it more and more, I really appreciate a lot of the stuff it's doing.
So I think the best comparatives I have for that are auditory. Two of my favorite albums to come out in the past few years have been Clarence Clarity's "Know Now" and Sophie's "The Pearl of," or "The Oil of Every Pearl's on Insides," I think is the name of that album. It's very hard to remember.
Something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines. But both of those albums, when I finished listening to them for the first time, they did the same sort of thing to me. They made me stop and say, I either hate this or I love this, and I don't know yet. Like, I don't know how deep this labyrinth goes. I don't know if this even is a labyrinth, if it's worth exploring, or if I'm just looking at a flat piece of paper and I'm seeing a labyrinth. I don't know yet, but I want to know. And I found myself going back over those albums again and again, and I did find a lot in them, and they're very worth like that analysis, or House of Leaves, for the same reasons. Now, I'm not saying that this film is as academic as any of those pieces of art that I just cited.
No, I would even argue that this movie is kind of dumb at times.
It's extremely dumb most of the time. No reason to beat around the bush here. This is a very dumb movie. And I say that with love. God, do I say that with love? But I think that there are a lot of comparatives between those albums and this film in that, in that I didn't know how I felt about it afterwards, and it took me a long time to figure it out. Like when you go through a horrific experience in your life, it takes you a while to figure out what it meant to you, and you have to break it apart slowly and sleep on it. I felt the same about this film, not like as if it was a traumatic event, but just it's just so hard to wrap your brain around because it's so surreal. Not because it's complex, but just because it's weird and it's strange.
I think as I have understood what it is, I've respected it more for that, because I've gone into it less shocked at the crazy shit.
Yeah, I'm imagining watching it now, for the second time with someone who hasn't seen it before. That does sound like a really fun time. It does sound like I would like to do that to someone.
Honestly,
because that's what you're doing. Let's not mince here. That's what you did to me.
That's what I did to Tease too.
Oh yeah, you showed to him. Oh man, that's funny.
I've done this to multiple people.
You bastard.
It's the perfect movie to do it. Because it's so much fun. You need to be
stopped, sir. You need to be stopped. That's horrible. No. I'm describing it like it's a terrible thing, but it is a real treat. It's a movie. It's very funny.
Well, before we get into ratings, one thing I want to talk about is the final act, when it really goes batshit.
It's hard to say when it really goes batshit, since it starts out nuts.
There's a big cat painting on one of the walls, and the cat just starts spewing blood out, and
because Kung Fu kicked it.
Yeah, that's right.
The character known as Kung Fu, kicked it.
Which we didn't give enough time to. I think we skipped
over Kung Fu, who is my favorite character.
Yeah, she is my favorite character.
Yeah.
Though Mac is pretty close second.
Mac's pretty great.
But she chops Kung Fu chops wood with her feet. And
she's attacked by wood, by flying psychic wood, and then after the sequence ends, a long drawn out fight scene with floating ghost wood. The sequence ends. She drops her shoulders and says, "Oh, maybe it was just an illusion," and then goes back to doing shit. As if that was a thing, that is a normal human thing to do.
It's so good.
That this movie is riddled with those sorts of moments where the people just don't act like people. And to be clear, we've talked about how it's a haunted house, and that the movie kind of kicks off or goes even more bonkers, towards the end of it when they're at the house. The film starts out insane, and I cannot preface that enough. What if I I'm not going to say if I'd been behind the camera in this movie, I'm not going to do that. But if what I would see as plausible would be for the film to start out reasonably normal, most other films. Like, to start out like reasonably paced with like a standard setting, and then as they get haunted, things sort of fall into psychedelia, and the film becomes very psychedelic. But this movie is just right off the bat, like, all right, like you're coming with me.
150% insane to 200% insane.
Yes.
In the third act, after she kicks this cat painting, it starts spewing blood, and there's a shit ton of blood. The house fills with blood. It's like
the floor cracks open and there is a vast ocean of blood beneath them. Is how it should be described. It's great. It's fabulous.
And they're like swimming on it, and they're trying to escape. There's this great sequence where Kung Fu is like leaving the house, right? And she gets sucked back in, and then
that's my favorite shot in the movie. Because she's doing the kung fu fight scene with the ghost mother that is also gorgeous.
Yeah,
and this film, if you're on the fence about it, because we've been kind of ramping this movie up so much, I think the key selling point for this film is there is a kung fu ghost battle in this movie. Like that happens. Like it's. I think the only thing that would have made that sequence better if like the Wu-Tang Clan was playing during it. Like that was like that's all I wanted is like Deltron 3030 like to like be like fucking rapping during that fight scene. Like that's all I wanted to happen. And oh man, but like during that sequence, God, I love that shot when she gets like kicked back into the house and she's like sort of sucked in, and like she does like this like backflip, but they reverse the shot, but the wall like separates for her. Mm-hmm. Like it's so cool. It's a really awesome shot. Like it lands. It's very effective. I want to go back and look at that shot again, because we did go back one time for it. Like it's very impressive. Like from a filmmaking perspective.
Yeah,
that's not easy to pull off. I did really enjoy that.
Well, and that's a lot of, the effects in this movie is like they're really unorthodox and sometimes they look bad, but the process to pull them off like they do is usually pretty elaborate.
It broke, even. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I respect it a lot for that.
Same.
Kung Fu meets her demise, unfortunately, by a killer lamp.
She her head gets sucked into a lamp and it eats her right up. Nom nom nom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall this movie, it just one after another scenes of just insanity. I feel like we're just talking in circles at this point because
probably.
Here's the thing.
Let's not fall. We're here to gaze into the void. We're not here to fall into it.
Yeah, here's the thing. This is a tough movie to talk about because this is a movie you just gotta see to understand, I feel like. Because a lot of it comes at you so fast that it's hard to dissect pieces one by one. It's like trying to pull bullets out of the air.
Most definitely. But man, did I enjoy it. So should we, what comes next on the list?
Yeah, let's go ahead and rate it. Unless you have anything more you want to talk about with this movie.
Do we do that first? Do we do?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, you're the starship captain here.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I'll start with my rating. This movie is really interesting. It's one of the most batshit movies I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of movies. More than anything, this movie has such visceral, wild energy to it that you can't help but just be sucked into it. It's under 90 minutes too, so it goes by fast, but this is absolutely a midnight movie. This is a movie to watch late at night when you're starting to feel tired.
And you've had, 6 or 8 tabs and or beers. Like, yep.
And this is a movie to show to people who have no idea what they're getting into, especially if you speak about it, pretentiously at first, so they think they're going into the smart
Piece of high art.
Oh yes, foreign film.
Oh, Hausu. Yes. Oh. It's in. Don't you know it's in the Criterion collection?
Exactly. Which
it actually is, by the way.
Yeah.
Which blew my fucking mind. Like I was not expecting that.
Well, Criterion has a lot of like cult midnight movies in its collection, but that's the funniest part because not everyone realizes that. So when you show them something like Hausu and they're not expecting it, it just makes them more confused.
Yeah, I was confused. Yeah.
And confusion is such a great way to experience this movie. It's not a perfect movie,
No,
but I like it a whole lot. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. Well, I've been thinking over the past several days about what I would rate this film, and it has been a really big problem for me because there are a lot of ways I could look at it and perspectives I could choose to rate it from. Obviously, I should rate it from my own perspective because that's what I have to work with. But I don't. Yes, when this movie lands, it lands, but goddamn, does it not have so many misses in it too? And again, it's hard to. You have to ask, okay, yeah, but are the misses if they're still effective? Yeah. But I don't know, man. If I can give it like a rating, so what I kind of want to do is just give it a surreal rating because I kind of feel like that's playing into the movie's game, and that's a good thing in this circumstance. So I'm going to give it 4 gleep glops out of a jip jarp. And I think I'm going to call it a day at that. I hope that doesn't bother anyone that I don't know, but if you want a rating out of me, I'll give it 3 out of 5, but
no, I mean, that's either way.
Yeah,
they're perfectly valid.
But I'm over stars. I'm leaning over Gleep Glorps. I think if I have to give it a rating.
Well, it's funny you rated it 3 because I think my first rating, I think I was looking at Letterboxd. I have it listed twice, and this was back when I was reviewing stuff on Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my rating was like either 3 or 3.5.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Again, like I was saying earlier about those albums, it took me like a year or two to decide that I did like Know Now by Clarence Clarity. It did take me a long time to parse that out, and I don't think there's anything wrong in that. I think that that's justified. So I'm going to say it's a very tentative review. I do think that my opinions over this film will change over time. I do. For the best, for the worst, I don't know. So I need perspective to think about it, but yeah, that's what I'll say.
So that gives us a final score of 3.8 out of 5. Which I think is fair. I totally understand how this movie could get very equally half-star ratings as it could 5-star. Mm-hmm. It's I guess you could say it's a divisive film.
Yes.
I
will. I'll say it.
More than anything, it's just a baffling film. It's a batshit film. And if you're not looking for that, you're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a very bad time. Very bad.
But if you turn your brain off a little bit and just go in for the experience.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, will you have an experience. Oh,
you will have a blast.
So with that, let's jump into Metacritic Corner.
Well, actually, technically, these aren't Metacritic reviews this time because we couldn't find it on Metacritic.
That's true.
So instead of Metacritic Corner,
the shortcoming of...
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in Rotten Tomato territory.
Ooh, that's great.
I didn't have that prepared or anything.
You freaking pricks! When will you learn? When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
So you have to reviews.
Yeah, they're all very short.
And I have one, and they're all very short.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah.
So if you want to do one, I'll do the next, and then you can finish us off.
For newcomers, the idea behind this segment is that we find other layman reviews of the film that we just watched and see, and we get some chuckles out of them. That's the plan, anyway.
Yeah.
But here, why don't you lead the way, Ben? Why don't you?
Oh, you do the first
sure.
one. I only have one, so you have two. You can start and end this.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, here I'll go for the 1 second. Let me okay. Here's the first one. I'll save the better one for last. This is from a Darren R, and Darren says, "You either enjoy the wackiness or you don't. I don't." Thus ends the review of Darren R.
So this is by Stephanie M.
Oh, Stephanie.
I'd probably have enjoyed this movie as if I had gotten my wisdom teeth pulled and I was still a little loopy. As it is, I'm just confused.
As if she wouldn't be if she'd had her wisdom. Whatever.
But I probably do want a best friend named Fantasy. And I'd like to literally make a guy go bananas.
Oh. That's not too bad. I think good for her.
1 out of 5.
Yeah, good for. Oh, really? Oh, man. That does kind of. Oh well. All right, and then here's the last one. This is from a Graham M, or a Graham M if you're into pronouncing the H. All right. Not really a horror comedy so much as a film that can't decide whether to be a horror or a comedy, and despite a promising start, it collapses into an almighty mess. Note, despite a promising start, it collapses. What? This movie starts out insane. Like we've talked about it. Like what was going on with this person's head? Yeah. So despite a promising start, it collapses into an almighty mess.
Like it doesn't start
Promising. This film starts out foreboding as fuck for how the rest of the movie is gonna go.
Well, it just starts out bad shit.
It starts out as a mess.
It lays its cards on the table,
Balls
as
on
well
the table,
as its
yeah.
balls and dick, and just flops it all around, knocking all your shit over.
I don't know where this person was for the beginning of the film, but it starts out pretty crazy and it ends pretty crazy. But anyway, still good for you, Graham M. You know, keep writing those reviews. Yeah.
So that concludes our very brief new segment, Rotten
Tomato territory. That's right.
Rotten Tomato territory. So this has been a great episode. Thanks for being on, Cleve.
Always a blast.
You got any plugs?
Oh, I don't know if I have any, but there's a note that just was just slipped under the door. Looks like you've got a new sponsor. Should I read who it's from?
Ooh, yeah, please.
All right, yeah.
Get that sponsor money.
Yeah, all right. Let's see who. All right, so from this week's sponsor. Do you have trouble with too many banana men? Are there too many banana men in your life? Well, with Dr. Scrumple's bananamen cream, get rid of your banana men. This message has been brought to you by Dr. Scrumple, the same person who also funds the toe removal cream, because I just utilized the same formula, and I'm realizing that now. But that's all right. You can't win them all sometimes. Signed, Dr. Scrumpulus. Have a fan-trumpulous day.
Oh no! they really had to fire their copy editor for that one, didn't they?
Those ad guys needed to put in some better work. That wasn't. I know they keep recycling. What's up with that? It's bad form.
Man, remake after remake.
I know.
The sequel's never as good.
Yeah. Maybe y'all can find a better sponsor next time.
Hopefully.
Yeah, who doesn't fucking plagiarize their other sponsors.
Oh God. So Cleveland, where can they find your stuff?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find my work on primarily my ArtStation as of the time of the recording of this podcast. You can find my work under either Cleveland Mosier or Iron Prism. Iron Prism with an M. Check out my fabulous, tabulous paintings and imagery galore. I got it for days. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. That's right. Keep your eyes peeled for It Stares Back, the game that we're all working on. We're working on the demo right now, and it's really coming along. We're pretty excited about it. I think that's everything from me to really look out for right now. I guess occasionally, if you have a strange dream and a blonde gentleman appears and kind of talks about art for a little too long, it's probably me. Don't mind me. I'm just hanging out, and that's all. It's all from me.
Yeah. They should definitely check out your stuff because it's awesome.
Thank you.
And like it or not, our game's coming, so be ready.
It's on the way.
Prepare yourself.
Shutting your doors.
But
Batten down the hatches.
You can follow me at Mr. Sheets. The Pod People podcast Twitter is at podpeoplepod. Email us at podpeoplepod@gmail.com with all your questions, complaints, suggestions. Follow us on Letterboxd.
Especially the complaints. We love those. Those are the best. Not enough complaints.
Tell us all about why you hated all of the movies.
Yeah, please do. We won't respond. We promise.
We'll read the best ones on the podcast.
Yes.
There
we go.
Follow us on Letterboxd. We're letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod. We put up a whole catalog of our past reviews. We take suggestions there. Just a good place to go for any sort of film reviews.
Not a good place. A great place.
A great place.
The best place.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure to like and review us on Apple Podcasts.
You better.
On Stitcher, on
I don't even
Spotify,
know what that is. But you better do it.
On all of the platforms.
Yeah.
Because, like it or not, we're going to stick around and keep making these.
You bet your britches.
Yeah, so next week we will be covering a movie.
We sure will.
And
oh boy.
it'll be quite the movie.
It's going to have a whole lot of film in it.
It'll be of the horror variety.
And it's going to have a lot of scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially the scene
I hear that, yeah.
where the one character does that thing to the other character.
Whoa, characters do things to other characters? Oh, man. I might have to skip out. I don't know if I can handle that. That's a lot of plot. That's like too much plot for me. Things happen? Ooh.
I know.
I'm sure that's talked about by the critics.
Well, you know what I can say definitively.
What is that, Ben?
Next week's movie will be a little less crazy than Hausu.
Yes. Well said. Well said. I think that's a good note.
But yeah, on behalf of everyone here, and by everyone I just mean myself and Cleve.
Well, Tease is here, but the freezer, doesn't really count.
I guess, yeah. Cryogenic.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Tease will be back next week. He will awake from his grand slumber.
Yes.
And join us.
Hopefully he'll actually be awake and he won't do like a Cabinet of Dr. Caligari thing and be like a somnambulist, Like, hopefully he'll actually be here and he won't be like in a dream-like state.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't make me have to create a soundboard of Matisse clips to play.
Or even worse, he did say that when he went into cryostasis that he would be working on his telepathic abilities so he could like enslave an army of degenerates, and I'm a little concerned about that.
As a degenerate, I'm very concerned.
Yeah, I don't need to be anyone else's degenerate. I'm my own degenerate. Thank you very much. So the real thing is that we need to let you guys know now that if we are being mind controlled, if we ever say the word, we need to have a safe word in that podcast, and that if we say it, that means we're being mind controlled, and we need.
You're absolutely right.
We need to warn the people before it's too late. We need to warn the pod people before it's too late, Ben. What do we do?
What's our safe word gonna be?
I don't know, man. How about Dr. Frambulus?
Dr. Frambulus?
Yeah, if we say Dr. Frambulus out of context, then that's it. It's game over.
Okay.
But if you don't hear
absolutely.
it, we're fine. We're fine. So don't worry. You know.
If we seem to be agreeing almost sycophantically with Matisse's opinions, that might be a bad sign. So
He's got some pretty good opinions, though.
he does have some good opinions. That's true. But keep an ear out for Dr. Frambulus,
Yeah, we
just
gotta
in
watch out.
case, because you never know. We might end up being telepathic slaves.
Yeah, can't have that. Can't have that at all.
No, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Well, it's been a good episode, and we will talk to you next week.
We will return.
Have a very spooky week.
Yes, and be nice to cats,
Yes.
especially fluffy white ones.
Yes, and practice your kung fu.
Bye.